everybody, welcome. My name is Elisa. I am the creator of Women in Production Collective. Welcome to our panel today, which is celebrating women that produce events from all around the world. I'm so excited for you to meet these incredible women as we finish Women's History Month. Before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping. Please put any questions you have in the chat here on YouTube. We will get to them as we can. Also hit subscribe for our YouTube channel. This is something that we just started and we'll have lots of content coming up. So we're so excited to show you and share with you some of the things that we're doing and things that we're thinking about. So before you meet our panelists, I would like to introduce Lindsay, who's going to be our moderator today. Lindsay is based here in the US and she's going to tell you all about herself. And then we're going to introduce our panelists. Welcome, Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you, Elisa. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for, what is for me coffee time here in the US. But my name is Lindsay Vrab. I, along with my husband, run a company called Show Before the Show, and we supply production and entertainment staff for pop culture events all around the world. So not just in the US, while we have done events in let's see, Amsterdam, Barcelona, England, Africa. We've also got one coming up in Asia, in Japan. So we're super excited about that. And hopefully that'll give us, or at least me, some good perspective to talk to our lovely panelists today, because I have a theater background. And so my foray into the event world really came through being a theatrical stage manager, technician, performer, started to do work in theme parks, and that sort of dovetailed into event work. And here I am today as a director of production for a company that my husband and I own, which is still kind of crazy to think about. So enough about me. We're going to get to our panelists today. So if we could please start with Ms. Erica Cotton. If you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be lovely.
Good morning, everyone. And it's so nice to be a part of this wonderful group celebrating women's history and our crazy world of event production. I came through as an event producer. Currently, I came from a broadcast background. I have 30 years in broadcasts, climbing the ladder through PBS, through nonprofits and profit content, building content for tourism and theme park entertainment, and made a pivot into event production about 6 months ago. But as an event producer for creative content, I found myself working a lot in broadcast as an event producer and figuring out how can I sort of transfer those skills into being a full-time event producer. So with that creative background in content building, I now service a company that manages content around the world. So I'm looking forward to a continued exciting career in event production, but I'll probably talk more about the creative background and building content for events. So wonderful to be here with everybody.
Thank you, Erica. Amber, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I am based in Canada, and I'm currently the director of event production for Encore Canada. I lead a team of producers and stage managers nationally. My team works all over the place, Europe, Asia, South America, but a lot in Canada. And I started my career out in agency, did some academic, trade shows, weddings, and ultimately found my place in production as a stage manager to begin with. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Amber. And last but not least, Anna.
Hi, everybody. Coming to you live from Singapore. My name's Anna. I grew up in the land down under, as they say, in Australia. First sort of working in sales and marketing in the MICE industry, and then went up to China to work on the Olympics and World Expo, which is where I sort of became in love with everything live and live production. I have been based in Asia, particularly Singapore, since 2015. Worked for a very large global agency for a number of years, and then decided after COVID to take the leap and open my own agency. And we now have 40 staff full-time in Dubai, Australia, and Singapore. And we work in everywhere around the world, from Vancouver to Houston to Macau, Hong Kong, Osaka, all through Asia, and also in Europe. So really honored to be here with these amazing women talking about one of the big loves of my life, show production and live production.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all, ladies, for being here today. And we're just going to start off with a couple of icebreakers to make this really, really easy. This is not meant to be for all of you out there watching a formalized conversation. Please, please, as Elisa said, drop questions into the chat, and as we can, we will layer those into our conversation today. And if at the end we haven't answered some of them, we'll look to take some time to finish those questions out. So on to the icebreakers. First off, we are coming from all different places, doing all kinds of things in all branches of the production and event world. So I'm curious to know, what is your favorite thing about the culture where you currently are or that you work in the most? This is not meant to be difficult.
Here, I can take it.
Okay.
My favorite thing, and I'll speak to the culture of my company. The company that I landed in is a mix of a whole bunch of different legacy audiovisual firms. And the culture is one of community. We all help each other. We all come from very, very different backgrounds. And it's very, like the people are why I'm here. So the culture is very good. And I mean, Canadians, we're all nice. So it's
Great.
nice to work across Canada.
I'm glad the stereotype holds up. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Who else?
I actually love the fact that I've created a company which is 80% female. We support each other. There's no tall poppy syndrome. We really take the younger members in the organization and try and sort of imbibe them with the passion and drive that us older sort of leaders in the industry have learnt over the years, and get them to have that passion and drive and love for the live event. You know, after COVID, it was such a difficult time that I'm really proud that we've come to the fore and have a fantastic culture of collaboration and community, and really sort of sharing a team-based sort of structure. We were isolated for so long in COVID, so to be back together in an office, whether it be in whatever country my team are in, it's just fantastic to have that collaborative culture. I feel very strongly about that.
Phenomenal.
It's going to sound kind of hokey, but I love client service. I really do. I enjoy putting something together for a client, whether it's creative content or managing their logistics. And I love the fact that we can deliver something that a client has in their mind, a vision, and execute that to a point where they are like, this is exactly what I wanted. So that makes me feel that sense of joy, knowing that I'm providing a client service, really.
Awesome. Next icebreaker. Do you have a favorite venue that you've worked in? I know there's so many.
The Great Wall of China.
That counts. Holy cow. What did you do with the Great Wall of China?
We did a Olympic program for the Seven Network in Australia. So we had the VIPs, 17 waves, and we did a beautiful dinner experience, lunch experience, and a breakfast experience on the Great Wall at Mutanyu, just outside of Beijing.
Amazing. I don't know if anybody can top that, but that's okay. Your favorite?
No.
Your favorite. You have a Amber or Erica, you want to jump in?
No.
I mean, we can't top it, I'm sure.
No.
I want to speak for you.
Like we'll name our favorite convention center or something. I don't know. Okay.
So my favorite venue, I gotta say, I did not produce this event. I was lucky enough to be called in to deck manage, but we did an event for one of the big four at the Encore Theater in Vegas. And it was the closest thing to a theater production that I've ever been a part of. We used the trapdoor and everything on the stage. And I was like, with so much haze. It was the best. But not the Great Wall.
Look, there are manufactured effects, and then there are effects that are out in the real world, and they're both very, very good and effective. All right, Erica, do you want to join in, or are we moving on?
We can move on.
Okay.
I want to ask Anna questions about China now. I'm like, let's do that.
That's for the post. All right. Next up for the icebreakers, and this is the last one. Do you have a favorite place to travel? Work or unwork, not work related.
I can start. I feel like mine is like, so work related. I love going to Vancouver. I get to go to Vancouver a lot. I'm based in Toronto in Canada. And that just like there's something about being in an area that has the rain and whatever. Personally, though, I love to go to Europe and just sit in a cafe and people watch. Like there are so many little destinations that have that, but like think about interior Europe. Anyway, it's a vibe. I like
It
the
sounds
vibe.
lovely. Immaculate.
Yeah.
I would say that mine right now is Vegas, working with the company. Amber and I both work for Encore. I would say that it's going into that high energy environment, and
Mhm.
there's that constant vibe of always there's something new, there's something vibrant, there's something exciting to do, and then with the inside the resorts, you feel like there's just this everything is alive. I don't know, and I really was really thrilled to go out there for the first time as not as a guest, but as a person in event production, going behind the scenes and seeing how these convention spaces work out there. It's amazing what they're able to do. Feeling a little bit like that here in Orlando because we have tons of resorts and tons of convention space, but there's something about that strip just it's wild. My light is going crazy. I also like the West for personal reasons. I love lavender. So I enjoy going to Washington State. There's a little town up there on the corner before you get to Canada called Sequim. Sequim, I think that's how you pronounce it. And they have a lavender festival once a year, and you get everything culinary, everything bath and body, education, whatever your interests are in lavender, and you're just sitting in these huge purple Aradak chairs and smelling that lavender and the West Coast. That's kind of like my Zen place.
Awesome. So my place for work would be Dubai. It's just absolutely like always on. It's like I always get excited and have so many new ideas about different things we want to do. Anything is possible. It's just a very, very fast-paced, really energetic, exciting place. And then for personal, Koh Samui, a bit of White Lotus. Koh Samui is like 2 hours from us here in Singapore. So anytime we want to have a little long weekend, because my team work a 4-day work week, so we can take a Monday or a Friday off. We can go and have a little weekend and just go and slip into a little bit of paradise. And that's what Asia is, you know, so many little hidden places that you can go and have those special moments to get away from the busy life of events.
Oh, that sounds lovely. So now that we're thinking about vacation, let's talk about work. I know, right? Uh, so you all are in different parts of the industry, and that's totally fine. So I'd be interested from your individual point of views, what has changed in your industry from when you started to where you are now? Anyone can start.
I will start.
Okay.
When I first started, being sort of someone that has a bit of musical theatre and a bit of background in, I guess, more music and entertainment, I was probably the only woman show calling, show directing, you know, doing a lot of those things. And I think where we stand now is so much further from where I was when I first started out. I always felt like a bit of the odd one out or someone that was not, I guess, taken as seriously as our other colleagues. But now I really love nothing better than, you know, walking into a room and seeing other women doing what I did and really standing, you know, lighting directors. I've got an awesome lighting director that works with us. I've got a fantastic stage manager. So all these women that have just taken the technical production, you know, and really made it a craft and really taken ownership of it. It was very, very different when I started. Especially in Australia, which really is a long way away and certainly wasn't at the forefront of tech. But yeah, so certainly in a very different place now in Asia, and it's fantastic to be a voice in the industry in region, but also have my team, you know, in that way as well from production and event experience. So yeah, really exciting. Wonderful.
I would say it's coming from an environment where I was the only woman and person of color in events in the AV world, whether it was behind the scenes in broadcast or in front of the scenes with creative content. There really weren't a lot of people of color. When I first started out, there'd be many a room where I would be the female and the African American woman in the room. So I have loved, as I have encountered different events and different productions, seeing that the workforce is becoming so much more like how I see the world. I love the different thoughts and views and opinions that come from people of diverse backgrounds and learning how to work in the same environment. It's been inspiring to look back now and see, wow, look at everybody. Look at everybody that's here now. It's great.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I can echo that. Where I came from early in my career, a lot of women, and moving into the production realm, it largely was male dominated. And I'm happy to say that now it's such a mix. And even on the technician level, we see so many more women and, people of color and queer folks. Like it has expanded. And my team personally, we've got a very diverse team in Canada from the producer and stage manager standpoint. So I'm delighted to see all of the changes.
That's so cool to hear. It's, we hear a lot of stories about people being the first or the only in a space. And when you're the intersectionality of those things, it's even a bigger burden to bear. So broadening community is always a welcome thing. We'll take that every day, any day around the world. I think we're talking a little bit about ourselves in our industry. I want to shift the conversation just for a second to clients, because I know, Erica, you mentioned, client services is something that you absolutely love. How do you find your clients? Are they local? Are they global? Do you do a little bit of both? Do you travel to them? Do they come to you? What does that look like for you?
So in Asia, for me, I would say 40% of our clients are based in Singapore. The other are people coming to Singapore, global MNCs that are coming in to do an experience or an event. But then we've also got, because Singapore is almost that hot pot now from Hong Kong of finance and business in Asia, we've got a lot of people going out of Singapore to do things in other areas, other places around the world. So we have a client that we've done an event for in Bali. We're now going to do an event for them in Dubai, and in November we'll take them to Portugal. So the trust of having that sort of relationship where the client wants to go with you and you are the expert to take them to these places is built in that client servicing, exactly what Erica was saying. And I think that will only continue to grow, because I think since COVID, the walls came down a little bit and everyone was really open to people, guess being from a different place didn't mean that you couldn't go to another place. You know what I mean? So it was very limiting to go through COVID, but in one way it opened up a lot of things, certainly in Asia. And we are a long trip away. I, for example, took my team on our staff conference. We went to LA and Vegas. And for a lot of the Singaporeans, they hadn't traveled that far before, even though they work in the events industry. So to take them from Singapore to Vegas and experience what Erica was talking about really opened their eyes. And it was, a real journey of discovery. And a lot of Asian clients are coming to the US and doing that as well for big sales kickoffs and things like that. So that's definitely a trend that we're seeing in my part of the world.
That's so fun, because as someone who's in America, I have the exact opposite experience. So it's great to know that it goes both directions. Amber or Erica?
Yeah, I mean, for us, a little bit of the same. We've got obviously a very large base of Canadian clients who pull on our teams nationally, but Canada is a destination. We have people coming from other countries all of the time. And we also have Canadian clients going to other countries. My team, it is a little bit like what Anna was saying. We build relationships, and the walls really did come down during COVID, seeing that we were able to take on virtual events so effectively. They're like, oh, these people do great events. I would like to bring them to, Bangkok when I do my next conference or whatever that is. So it really is, the borders are less these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my environment, I think it's the same with Amber, that the clients are given to me in the current role, so I'm able to foster new relationships. But in my prior role and in my work on the side, it still is one of building relationships based on a reputation that I have in the environment. So let's take tourism, for example, which is bread and butter here in Orlando. Those clients that come to me to produce content for their events, they have heard about me in circles. And so it gives me an opportunity to build from a reputation, to build new partnerships. So I do believe that how you service your client follows you for sure, and creates that that word of mouth out there about who you are and what you do. So representing myself as someone who really wants to take a personal approach to understanding your creative or your event objectives is how I'm able to build clients.
Mhm. Just building on that, I'm wondering if we can go just a little bit deeper, because events and any kind of production have so many logistics. And when you talk about people moving and going places and trusting you to be the person who takes them there or takes their brand there or whatever that is, can you talk about how you get them comfortable with that idea and how you work to build that trust?
I'll take that one for starts. I think I start off with a very corporate approach to it in the paperwork process of what is your event, what are your goals, what is your audience, what are your attendees. So getting that part out of the way first, it gives me a chance to go back in and do a little homework on the organization. I love looking up an organization and finding out more about how they exist in their corporate space or in their entertainment space, so that I can dive deeper into what drives their objectives, and that's how I'm able to get more personal with it, is taking that time to go after those checkpoint conversations a little deeper into who they are, so that the next time we have our discovery calls and our planning sessions, I'm sort of speaking their language, and understanding the brand to me is paramount.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
And
when we travel or we suggest a client goes somewhere, we obviously research and have a very strong foundation before we any recommendation at all. I think my background probably being in hotels, and my business partner was in VIP gaming. She's got a very good understanding of, a lot of the do's and don'ts in that sort of C-suite world. So we always will recommend something to a client that's come from a place of solid research and a really good foundation of risk, and being adverse to anything that could be of danger, going to perhaps locations that might have, sort of restrictions in and out of the country. So I think it comes down to the operations, logistics, and that solid foundation of making sure that that is all ticked. Obviously, insurance and those sort of stuff comes in as well. But I think it's really having that trust. And as Erica was saying, that relationship with the client where they do trust that the information that you've researched and compiled for them is something that they feel confident in. And then they go to that destination with you.
that's a really great point, because a lot of times I feel like you don't know what you don't know. So, personally, there was a moment in my life where I had to research getting travel visas for some Mongolian acrobats. I didn't know anything about Mongolia, much less any laws around it. So the research had to happen immediately. Amber, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I echo all of that. But just on even the logistics side, like, the research is key. And this is one of the reasons why our customers come to us, because we're able to do our due diligence and navigate all of the differences country to country. Visas, permitting, keeping up on what is happening globally in the news, whatever, flagging things when they could potentially be a risk down the line. Like, this is our job at the baseline. So, yeah, I think it's all.
So we actually got a question in the chat that is the perfect segue from what you just said.
Yeah.
From Isabella, a question regarding clients in your industry and event planning. How do you manage unexpected changes from clients? How do you break it to your team? How do you and your team adapt? So we know that clients are affected by changes, but you are as well. How does that work for you?
I think always having a plan B.
Oh,
Always.
well,
Sorry.
yes.
It's not inherently our personalities.
Yeah, the plan B, the plan A, the plan C. I think our team is incredibly communicative, and collaboration and transparency is key. It's not about the problem, it's about the solution. And I think certainly since COVID, people have become a lot more open, and we didn't have a choice. We were trapped at home. The transparency is super important, and breaking it to your team and solving it together. Nothing is ever a problem. It's wrong. It's the solution that you developed to sort out that problem. So I think clients really respect the transparency. And again, it's that risk adversity, you know, how's the due diligence going to affect this? How is this going to translate? What's the impact on my stakeholders, my guests, etc.? So I think that whole foundation of trust comes into play again.
Awesome. You've mentioned a couple of times, you know, pre-COVID, post-COVID, and I think that's sort of the, you know, current equivalent of where we demarcate how we've done business. I'm just wondering if anything specifically sticks out to you, if there's one or two things that was like, man, this was pre-2020 way of doing things, and this is the post-2020 way of doing things.
I mean, if I can talk about the obvious, virtual events, you know, every once in a while, my team and I talk about how we would never get on a video call pre-2020. So even the fact that we're able to do what we're doing this morning is one of the gifts that the pandemic gave us, which I'm very grateful for, because now we're able to, you know, broadcast in a very easy way our large in-person events and, you know, have audience participation virtually in a live event. Like things have changed. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I think too with virtual, it's had a way of bringing people closer, even though it feels like we're distant in this kind of space. I found that my first virtual event was it was so broad, and we were touching on so many topics, and it was celebrity driven. So we're having packages that we're building with celebrities to support the content. So we're creating content in a virtual space, which was absolutely wild to me. Like, all right, I'm going to take these packages based in this square, and then I'm going to edit it and put content around it, and it's just going to look just as flashy as it would on a big LED screen. I think that was the fun challenge that I had with it. Like, wow, this is new but exciting at the same time. So, and I don't think a lot of that is left. I still feel that there are people that are like, can we just produce it in Zoom and then we edit and put some music together and put it on our show? Like, yes, you can.
I know we just had a conversation with Elisa before this about I had not paid attention to the guest, you know, user interface for this, and I was like, oh wait, it's YouTube, duh. Like, there's so many ways to produce things virtually. It's kind of amazing. Anna, did you want to add?
I think the biggest thing for me was the clients finally understanding that it takes a village. Like, I don't think clients realized that you needed someone to do all those tasks just to get that virtual event to happen. And so what's happened for us now, the line items in our budgets aren't scary anymore. Yes, we need a show caller. Yes, we have 2 stage managers because there's 2 sides of a stage. Yes, we need a camera director. Yes, we need 3. And then we need the editors. So that whole big chunk of the budget became so much clearer, and clients are like, I get it now, because they went through it. And trying to do a virtual event as a client and make it look like what we could make something look like on a call, this call, impossible. But they get it now. They may not have wanted to pay for it and understood it at the beginning of COVID, but they certainly get it now. So I think the production side of it really opened up, and the technology side of it really advanced as well. And I think it really was for the benefit of everyone in the industry in a funny way. But yeah, I think
that's an
definitely
interesting byproduct. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever really thought about that, but you're absolutely right. That it's you know, for the good or the bad, you know, it changes our budgets for sure.
And it's so true for us as well.
Yeah. All right, let's loop back to a little bit more about the people that we work with, because we got some questions in the chat here about getting into the industry, especially if it's international. I think that we're maybe opening a curtain to the fact that you don't just have to do work in your backyard, that, you know, you can still live where you want to live and do work wherever you choose to do work, or you can move to do work. So what advice do you have for people wanting to get into events around the world, not just in their local areas?
I'll take this one.
Go for it.
I would recommend that you email people, even if the job that you see advertised is not in the country where you live, give it a go. I had a girl that was based in San Francisco and wanted to come to China, and she emailed me and emailed me and emailed me for so long that in the end I was like, okay, you've got to come, and experience this. She came and worked for me in Shanghai. She worked in Beijing. She then went and worked for a big global agency in Beijing as their head of production. And then she went to New York, and she worked for like that company who's massive in New York and became their vice president of global production. And then she got married to another person in the industry, had a baby, and literally her whole life basically changed because she emailed me incessantly, and eventually I gave in. So, like, I don't think there's any barriers now. COVID is definitely has opened up that. And if you want to go after something and you have something that you want to do, go for it. There's people doing great things everywhere in the world, and it's just about that persistence and passion and drive to get to that goal. So I'm not sure if that was a good thing for me to say, because now my email might be deluged with people, but I just think it's an example of taking a leap and taking a chance and not letting where you live be the restriction to you doing something great.
Great words to live by. Anyone else?
Anna, that was
I mean, I think you said it.
that was an Anna question.
Awesome. So Anna, you did mention something here that I think I want all of you to touch on if you could, and that is, you're all in a position where you either have built teams around you or you work with teams and you have to sort of build those relationships. How do you go about building teams? Especially when you're, Anna is working in any number of places in Asia, and Amber, you're in Canada, but your clients are everywhere. And Erica, your clients are coming all to you in one location. How do you build a team when you might not have consistency or when you're in a place that you are unfamiliar with?
I mean, I can take the first, I guess. Working for a global company, it's slightly easier for my team. We have offices everywhere. And so when we're building a team, it really is the network of Encore being able to fan out to see who lives in what area and what skill sets currently exist. So when I'm looking at teams, and I'll give an example of an event that I did recently in Vancouver, we had a mix of US people and Canadian people, and I really just fanned out for skill set. So looking for the skill set that I required and reaching out to people that I may not have known before to see if those skill sets existed from the various groups. There's a little bit of a non-traditional approach, but
yeah, think outside the box sometimes is the best policy.
Yeah.
And I think on the corporate side, I'd agree also with Encore. Yes, it's the technical teams are there, and whether you're in Orlando or Utah or Vegas or DC, you're going to be pulling from a wealth of AV tech in those teams from those regions. But I would say building something on my own, I would look at the skill set that matches the client need. And who's going to be the best person to deliver that animation? Who's going to be the best videographer to capture the content? It's not necessarily. I don't like to base it on your skill set in the industry, how many years you've been doing it, but what you do, and what your interests are, what your skills are, what your talent set is that best matches what this client needs, I think, is how I build them. So I may work with one animator on one design, and then I might not see him again for a year because he just didn't match what the need was for my smaller end clients, or doesn't necessarily work in an animated space where we're building content that has to live on different surfaces. So I try to make sure I have a wealth of freelancers when I'm building from those buckets that best service what the creative need is.
I think there's a phrase out there that a lot of people use: right fit talent, making sure you've got the right person for the job. And Erica, just as a sidebar here, there is someone on the call today who is interested in being a production manager in the animation industry. So I have a feeling you might get a little ring-a-ding on the phone or an email after this. Nice. Anna, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I started my company 3 years ago. Prior to that, I was in a big agency, and I had to start from scratch. So I started the company from my dining room table. And now I have offices in 3 countries and I have 40 full-time staff. So I'm very big on loyalty and passion and drive. A lot of the stuff in the industry you can learn, but you've got to have the right attitude, the right, I call it the spirito, you know, in the passion and drive that you have. And a lot of the people that work for me now in the company I have worked with me in other companies, in other agencies, and came to work with me and finally said, Anna, you've finally done it. After 30 years, you've come and done it yourself. So it's the right attitude, right fit, exactly what the ladies were just saying, but right experience as well. You know, there's a lot of hard yards learning how to do what we do in this industry, and it's not something that you instantly walk into a job and learn. I started in an advertising agency when I was 17 in the voiceover box when they used to do radio commercials, and I was the tea girl and I used to deliver the mail, and I loved hearing people do voiceovers. So a lot of what I do, and I also sing, is all about that interest I had when I was really young. But I learnt a little bit there, and then I went through my career and learnt more. So I think you've got to have a really open mind and a really, I guess, live or die passion for the industry. Events is not for the faint-hearted. It's not something you just pick up a book and learn. So how I've always hired my people is mentored them well, led them well, and taken the things that they're interested in and then put them into content. Or if they've got an industry interest in becoming a show caller, you know, putting them in there. Or if they just want to learn about tech and they want to learn about lighting and sound, giving them to the technical director and sitting them next to them and letting them learn. So I've always tried to hire the right people with the right attitude that can then learn the skills to build the business. So we actually have in-house technical people in our team. We also have in-house animation, in-house video, etc. So not all agencies in Asia have that, but it's something that I think from a live production perspective, I felt very passionate about bringing that in. So I think that's probably my advice, you know, go in at the ground and then find the area that you want and then, you know, learn and grow, because loyalty and hard work gets you a long way.
Yes.
I also add one more thing to that. Right fit, right talent, right budget.
Fair enough.
That B word will get you every time, right? Because a client has champagne dreams and maybe has a very different kind of reality. So they're having to, again, it goes back to that client service, really understanding what they need and what their parameters are so that you can also build with the right team. And sometimes having those difficult conversations with freelancers who have huge visions of how something can go, but in the back of your mind, you know, this is kind of the realm of what I have to work with. Having those conversations, Anna, like you said, is also important in that respect, because it will also help to tailor who is the fit for that, but then help to tailor that person who may have big creative dreams, but we just can't do it in this budget. So I think that's important.
That's fair. That's fair. Which in my mind goes to a whole separate conversation that we could have for an hour about knowing your worth, but we're going to pause on that, table it, and have it later. Instead, I've got 2 questions that are similar here in the chat about getting started and meeting people. You know, we heard the, you know, cold email and persistence is one way. And then Amber, you mentioned that you do a lot of, you know, research and reaching out when you build teams to understand who those folks are. But let's see, there's somebody here who said, how do you meet people in the industry or understand if a company is somebody that you want to work with? And then somebody else, Madison, noted that she thinks the hardest thing about getting a job is just getting that first job. Like, how do you start? Where do you go when you don't, you know, maybe you don't have the experience that you want because you're starting in this industry new, or maybe you're changing industries. How do you get there?
I mean, I can start if that's okay. I do a lot of reach outs. Like, I have people in my LinkedIn, and I'm sure Erica and Anna, you're the same. Like, people will approach and be like, hey, can I pick your brain? So that is one really good way to you see somebody whose career you want to model, and you're like, how did you get to where you are? The other thing that I did a lot when I was growing up in the industry myself is associations. So even coming to a call like this, Women in Production Collective, is a way to meet people in the industry. And so, like minds, as women in the industry as well, we really want to make sure that there are still women, right? Like, we want to help you get to the places that you want to go. So really, it is like, go outside of your comfort zone. Maybe if you don't normally reach out to strangers, and just make those touches.
I think there's something, and I read a lot, and I can't ever place where it's come from in my brain because I just don't have that good of a memory. But there's something about the social currency, and every time
Mhm.
that you make that touch with someone, it reminds them that you are there, and then that means that you have social currency to use and say, "Hey, remember that time we talked?" And just kind of collecting all those like social coins in your pocket so that you can pull them out
Yep.
when you feel like you need them. I think that that's a skill, and you have to develop that throughout your career and start early.
Yeah,
Anybody
I'd
else?
suggest people reach out and have, if you're not in the physical city where the person is based, have a virtual coffee. It's okay now to
Yeah.
turn our cameras on and have a coffee chat together. And just 30 minutes, I'd really love to hear how you started or what advice you could give me. And look, people are busy, but you know, people generally will make time. I've done that recently and had sort of coffee mornings with people. A girl that I know in Australia does it. She makes a commitment to see 3 new people every week. And she's more in PR, not so much event production, but her business has exploded by just meeting these amazing new people. And in turn, she's mentoring and sharing her knowledge with others as well. I think the kindness aspect of it is super important. You'd have to be a pretty cold person to say no to someone that wanted to spend 30 minutes talking about you. So, and learning from you. So I think a virtual coffee and setting a little target for yourself and network. Go to a couple of networking things in your city. Go and have a drink after work with some people. There's a lot of different things in different cities that are event driven with associations in different cities, and go and meet people and just be brave and step forth. Events are all about things that happen and that are experiences. Set yourself a few little tasks slowly. Maybe you'll meet 2 people, 3 people, and then eventually you'll get on a bit of a roll. And people always want to give people a chance, and particularly women, as Amber was saying, we want to help you, we want to share, we want you to succeed. So yeah, be brave and get out there.
And you never know who may know someone. And I think that that's how I've gotten approaches, either in email or LinkedIn, is from someone who knows someone who knew me and said she might be a really good person to talk to. So um, always, I would say, just broaden your network of people, because you never know who they may know. Those six degrees and 7 degrees of separation, I think that's so real. And usually how I have gotten calls are from someone that I was a mentor under, and then that person watched me grow and now is recommending that someone talk to me. So definitely, definitely broadening your network and really digging into what their skills are and where they've come from, because they're going to almost automatically go, "Oh, based on that, I know someone you can talk to."
Mm. In that regard, this kind of goes along with one of the questions in the chat. What skills do you think are helpful in making those connections? Like if somebody, what are people looking for where they go, Erica's the one, she's got that. Like what skills in the event world specifically are the things that you feel like are the most valuable? And are they things you can learn? Are they things that you have to experience? What can you talk about there?
I think one thing that the thing that I usually will say at the top of all of these conversations is the more that you can learn how to talk to other people, because ultimately this is sales, right? Like we're customer facing. We are, we have to navigate all sorts of different kinds of relationships. And I think that the baseline of that skill, just being able to navigate the interpersonal, is something that I look for, and it's something that I want to foster in my team. And then because the events industry is so varied as well, right? Like in terms of other skill, I think Anna, you said this at the top of the call, like you can teach a lot of stuff. It really is the interpersonal that you can't teach. Yeah.
That's took mine. I'll
Sorry.
I'll add on to that. And I just think it is relationship building, and it's how not only how you approach someone, but how approachable are you as well? Because I feel like, again, in our social media silos, one of the things that is getting lost is that interpersonal connection, that face to face, and sometimes it's a good and a bad, right? But I think that being approachable is just as important in that communication and relationship building. Knowing that you're still sponging and you're still looking for information and growth, and that no, you're not already there. That to me is part of it, because there's still so much more that you can sponge, right? So that communication and building relationships and being open to receive.
Yeah, the vulnerability and authenticity, I think, is really important. Admitting that you do want to learn, or you need to learn something, and being open, I think, opens up the collaboration in turn. And I think that's just an honesty and a transparency skill, right? It's coming down to that active listening and also wanting to learn. There are so many things that you can be taught, but you've got to open it. And sometimes it's scary to be vulnerable and admit something to someone that's a stranger, but you break down a lot of barriers. If you can get the balance right on that interpersonal communication, it will definitely benefit you in the long run, for sure.
It's kind of great to hear this message globally, that relationships matter everywhere. I mean, this
Yes.
call would not happen if we didn't have relationships with each other, and all of these weird spider webs of, well, this person knows this person knows this person. I mean, right now we're on so many different time zones. I'm not sure how we made this happen, but that's what's so cool about keeping those relationships intact and being able to have those interpersonal skills, I think. Let's zoom out real quick, just for a minute here. We've been talking a lot about people skills, which is wonderful. But can we take a moment just to talk a little bit about maybe some pros and cons about working globally? There's a really specific question in the chat here about, are rules different in different places, or is it just based on the production? Are people different in different places, and how do you navigate that?
I'll take this. Being in the melting pot of Asia, where I'm surrounded by about 14 different languages and 14 different customs and immigration laws. And let me tell you, it is a minefield. You can speak English, but you need to be really aware. And I'm always trying to be culturally appropriate in any country we go to. There are very specific logistics, religious, cultural things that we need to be very aware of, even down to the food that people eat, pork, no pork. There's a whole thing in Asia with that. Really have to do your research and rely on your team to work with you to make sure that you don't make any faux pas. Every country is different, and every country has different standards and operating procedures and safety, etc. So what we always do when we go into different countries, particularly in Asia, is strive for a strong global production standard that would work if we were in the US, Singapore, Cambodia, etc. So we really try and then educate those suppliers that are in those countries to be better, learn and grow. I've been working in and out of Indonesia since I was 20, and just to see this one company that I've worked with, who is a AV sound and lighting company, how far they've come and how far they've sort of learnt with the productions that I've brought in, and lighting directors from America, and a sound guy from the UK, and their team is now so incredible. But when I first met them 17 years ago, it was completely different, So sometimes the power of going into those countries is that you learn culturally from that, that foundation of the country and the localization, but they also learn from you. So I think that's quite unique. And I was just in the US working on gas tech in Houston. I learned quite a lot from that experience as well. So you can never presume that you know everything, because every situation is different. Every country is different. Every venue is different. So yeah, always ask a lot of questions and lots of research.
Mm-hmm. It's almost a different way of saying, have a plan, work the plan, and be ready to change the plan. And sorry, Amber, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to add, because Anna, I don't know if you realize the gift you're giving to these teams when you bring in, I think one of the things that, and this is maybe a bit off topic, but the walls being down and us being able to travel globally, we're being able to teach other teams how other countries produce events as well. So the knowledge sharing that you're bringing to those other countries is amazing. It gets me excited.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There is a question here too, specifically about different languages. Have any of you run into situations where you have had language barriers or something, and how did you overcome that in an event?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you?
Yes. I think it's funny because I had to send a team to Madrid last year, and boy, did I search for somebody who spoke Spanish internally. And we ended up not sending a Spanish lead. And it was a little bit more challenging, I think, just kind of to build on what Anna, you said in the last question, right? Like it's like doing the research around the local cultures and seeing what level of English or, you know, whatever the main language from your own company is in that local team can make or break your event. So it really is like figure out things before you even land in that environment.
Yes, heard.
Yeah.
I know, I don't know if you all have had this experience, but I also feel like when you're going someplace where English isn't the first language, any attempt that you can make to earnestly attempt the language, not, you know, say things that are, you know, because there are ways to do it. You know, there's the generalism of just saying words because you think you know the words, but actually putting in the effort. I know that on the flip side of that, I've been in situations where someone has said, I'm so sorry, my English is so bad. It's like, no, your English is wonderful. Please keep speaking it because I'm just that lost, you know? So as long as you have some humility, I think that there's something to be said about, even if you know 5 words, use all 5 of them whenever you can.
Yeah, I like to go and I do LinkedIn stalk and I find a producer in the place I'm going. And it's normally a woman, and I'm like, hey, my name's Anna and I'm doing this. Can we talk? And I've made a great connection in Vancouver doing that, a fantastic one in Portugal, fantastic one in Barcelona. And these are people now that I still work with on gigs when I have different things. And I fly them. This one girl, particularly that I met in Portugal, she's coming to do my event in Dubai with me at the end of April. We got on so well. She was so incredible. And now she's got an email address with my company and she's my kind of European person. So these little people that you pick up along the way with your little black book become part of, you know, what you do moving forward. And I think getting that person on the ground, they want to learn, Amber, exactly what you were saying. Like they want to learn, they want to grow, and having someone come to do an event with them, they're proud. They want to show off their country. They want to help you learn some of the language, even though you may not get it very correct. You can learn a couple of, you know, great words, have some great food together, and, you know, build a relationship, and that relationship will be a partnership that, you know, could last for years to come. So I think that's a really smart thing. Do the LinkedIn stalk. It works.
Awesome.
I guess for me, it's different because Orlando, the world comes to Orlando, basically, right? So any event, conference, or anything at any of the theme park destinations, events there, there are going to be people coming from the world to experience it here, to have their event here. So one of the ways that I would approach it or have approached it is making sure someone on my team has that connection, has that linguistic connection, has that cultural connection, and still has the talent that they're bringing to the event. And I find that a client will be really impressed by that and really relieved at that, to know that there is someone that's on that American team that can still speak their language and know a little bit about their culture.
That's great. That's another really cool way to make a relationship. And I want to go back to you mentioned, you know, reaching out to other women in, you know, seemingly random places that you're going to build a bridge, essentially. So I'm curious, are the struggles or the wins or the way that you bring women up, you know, I think there's 2 sides to the coin of being a woman in this industry. One of them is that you run into struggles that other people don't. And the other is that we've got this really strong community of people that are like, I don't care, we're going to help each other. Does that change depending on where you are in the world? Do you see that, like, is there a different point of view, or is there different action taken depending on where you are, or does it feel pretty much the same everywhere you go?
It feels pretty much the same wherever I've gone. I think in a lot of the more third world countries in Asia, the thirst for knowledge and learning is very strong. There may be a little bit more, like in Australia, of the tall poppy syndrome, a bit of competitive, maybe jealousy is a strong word, but just a bit of competition. But in Singapore, certainly the female support network here in the industry is very strong, particularly if it's expat and local together. There's quite a defined group of us here that that love to hang out and also, you know, have very high sort of production standards. But I've never found in any of the sort of more third world or even in Europe and the US, I found it very much a helpful, really welcoming, mentoring situation, you know, even down to, hey, let's just go and try some of this food because this is like, you'll really love this, you know what I mean? So I think women connect over the sort of the struggles and where we find ourselves in the industry, but then we find comfort in sharing a drink or having some food and, you know, just connecting. And I think that's universal. The competitive tall poppy, I think, thankfully, that's left behind a bit in Australia for me. But I've been living away from Australia for so long that I kind of consider myself more Asian. But yeah, I haven't found any negativity really in the long term. No.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Amber or Erica, do you have different experiences similar?
I mean, I can build on that. Like, I think there was a moment in my career where there was a lot more competition than there is now. Like, I think that the women who are in production that I have come across, everybody wants to lift each other up, and it's amazing. You know, it's very few and far between where we're not experiencing support, I think.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Are there any in particular struggles that you've had, even if you're not having them now? Was there a moment in your career where you were like, if I were just a dude, you know, this wouldn't be a thing?
Can't think of any examples right now, but for sure.
Generally, yes, that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, this goes way back into the crate, but I recall one thing that I still take with me to this day, but it was delivered to me by a man in my early parts of my career, and as a little PA with a big passion for a project that we were working on, and my passion was maybe too big. We can get into a whole separate conversation about that, right? But he brought me into his office and he's like, you're going to need to learn how to pick your battles. And I understood what he was saying then, and there may have been some other undercurrents of what he was delivering at that time. But that's a phrase that I have taken with me in my career, because there have inevitably been moments where there's something I really feel a project should go this way, or that a creative should go this way, or that a logistical thing should happen this way. But seeing all the parameters around me and knowing all of what we're trying to achieve helps me to know which battle is important to pick. But just how it was delivered to me at that time, you know, young whippersnapper, I was very offended by it. No, it's my way or no way. But that has kept a lasting legacy in how I approach things, is which are the important battles to pick, and how can you just pause something, regroup, and represent, so that you bring people on board with your idea, but also how you're more open, again, that being open to receive. Pick your battles. I still hear them.
I think that's a great transition to what is going to be our final question today, which is, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I mean, I can start. I think it's an easy one for me. I would tell myself to not be so afraid to be uncomfortable. Right? Like, when I jumped from the planning side to production and was like, I really want to show call in a male dominated industry. And it was terrifying. And I'm so glad I did it. You know, like, it's my favorite thing that I get to do. And it's only because I was uncomfortable.
That's a good one.
Don't be afraid to skip a step. Meaning, there may be something that you are really strong at and that you really have a passion for, and someone is telling you, well, you don't have this skill set, or you don't have this bit of experience. Go forward with it. Go forward with what your goal is, what your ambition is, and then build back in the skills that you need for it. I feel like my whole vision was, I want to be a producer. I want to be a producer. And so I made moves that maybe weren't conventional routes to do that, the skip a step sort of thing, and finding lanes to get to that goal that may not be the traditional path of you do this, then you do this, then you do that. It's so broad how you can become a producer these days. There's so many ways in which, so many different avenues of being a producer, so many different theories of what a producer can be. So maybe your idea is to be an event producer, or maybe you're a creative event producer. Go through, and the word is eluding me, but I just keep hearing skip a step. Go to that direction and then keep building back in. That makes any sense?
It does.
I would say face the fear and take the leap, because all they're going to tell you is no. It's pretty easy to take the no, because you just find another way to do it. So yeah, take the leap.
So I think to our younger selves, what I'm hearing is #courage.
Courage.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if any of you out there are having those struggles, you've got a community here that you can reach out to, and we will help you find your courage if that's what's needed. So I will just say that out loud for all of us. And with that, that's our time. So thank you, ladies. I think Elisa's going to jump on and have some final words.
Thank you guys for joining us today, and thank you to our panelists. This was a wonderful conversation. We'll have lots more of these. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media for our next events. Thanks for joining today. Have a great rest of your weekend.